My name's Lloyd, and I'm sitting out in San Diego right now with Ironman on a mission trip. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm part of Ironman's ministries. Grew up in Southern California. Right now I live in Central California. Have a wife and 3 wonderful kids, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And the biggest reason that I'm a part of Ironman's ministries probably goes back to the fact that most of my life was lived and existed in a state of insecurity. Always having been taller than everyone else, people expected that I was okay. Even though at the age of 12, my family went through a major split up. My parents got divorced. I didn't realize till 18 years later that I suffered from pretty severe abandonment issues, and really a point in my life at that age that marked who I became as a man. And so I went through my teenage years and my 20s and probably most of my 30s really looking for the acceptance and love that I didn't experience in my family, that I missed out on, that I would try to gain through sports and through achieving, and really being driven by a fear of failure because I wanted to prove to people that I was okay when inside I was suffering. And at some point in my late 20s, I got a chance through a pastor to be a part of a men's ministries, just to help out, just to volunteer. And for one of the first times in my life outside of sports, I experienced just a total acceptance or love, kind of an unconditional surrounding of men that not only had goals in mind, but they had God in mind. And through that, I think God planted in me a desire to want to explore how can this be prevalent in my life? How can I be around it all the time? It was a new feeling for me. It was this new feeling of confidence when I had brothers around me. I didn't quite understand it, but as time went on, God kind of started to pull back the shade and made me realize that it was okay to admit that I was inadequate, insecure, unsatisfied, unsure of myself. Yet most of the world looked at me as an athlete that was doing really good, and a student at times that was at the top of his class, and I couldn't have been more unhappy. And so as Ironman's Ministries came along, which really started because myself and a few guys sat down, probably in a setting similar to this with some coffee, and said, how do we do this? How do we do this for men first in our church? How do we put it in a format where many men can experience it? And then how do we turn it into a template or a model that God could use in a powerful way? And so as Ironman's Ministries progressed and grew, I can tell you that from the start, it probably had the biggest impact on me. I far from arrived when the start of Ironman's Ministry 7 years ago began to really grow. And I think even to this day, as we're sitting out here in San Diego and I'm with Mike Mintz and other big leaders in Ironman's Ministries, I'm just in awe of how God continues to impact me through. I stand up in front of a lot of men sometimes and they get to experience God's power, but what I don't tell them all the time is what it's continuing to do for me in healing me, that really now that I'm 40, I think I'm finally experiencing what it means to be absolutely okay with just God being adequate. Being absolutely okay with guys knowing that I'm a fool. Being totally in love with the fact that I can't scare away my best friends. There's nothing I could share with my best friends that would scare them away, that they wouldn't pray for, cry with me over, wrap their arms around me. I can say this, over the past few years, I have had more men lift me up, in some cases hold me down, lay their hands on me. Just last weekend I was in Tahoe with two of my best friends, crying and laughing harder than I just ever imagined as a teenager or a college athlete or someone in my 20s that I ever thought I would. And I guess I would say this, as we go on this Ironman experience together, in my own personal life, the evidence is that I'm a better friend because of God, because of Ironman. I'm a better husband by a long mile. I'm a better father than I ever had the training to be. And it's because somehow God is providing this mechanism where men can love each other and experience love and be transparent and be authentic and grow together and have a direction. And so I was just asked the question, what does Ironman's Ministries mean to me? It means that I know God's love and direction better than I've ever known it before, better than in seminary, better than with my own family growing up. And there's no value to that. I'm doing things now that I enjoy so much because it keeps me in the context of seeing and experiencing and teaching maybe what is the closest thing to God's love, to His unconditional love for His Son Jesus that I can imagine. So I'm thankful for all the men from California to Texas to San Diego, which is California, that are realizing in hordes, in masses, in hundreds at a time, that there's so many things that don't even come close to a man learning how to love, and they're letting down, and as a result we're seeing radical, powerful things happen for God. So thanks for letting me have a chance to share, and I love you guys. God bless you.